everybody. We are back again. Basement Brothers podcast, episode number 15. Just a flying by. Mr. Mo Money, how are you, my friend?
Just here, living my life, trying to be the best basement broski I can be. How you doing, JD?
That's all we can do. We hide from the sun.
There you go. How's everything on your end?
Not too bad. I mean, we're easing into summer. The weather's getting good and hot already. I mean, we're seeing in my region, we're seeing close to 90s already, which is almost unseasonable here for the Midwest.
All right, I'm out here trying to get physical, bro. I'm trying to get these calisthenics in every day, so I can look somewhat like the this avatar that I have, and see what we can do.
Wait a minute, that's not you.
Oh man, what do we have today?
Well, let's get into our favorite hot topics. So today's trend of basically everything coming that we do kind of see and watch and listen to, for whether it's TV, whether it's video games, everything's coming through a streaming service. What's kind of interesting about that is it's kind of shifted the way that everybody who produces anything basically sells their wares, hawks their wares, so to speak. So, what's interesting with that shift is in the traditional days of selling CDs, tapes, records, even back in the old days, 8-tracks, there was a definitive markup that the product had on it, right? And the record label used to get the lion's share of that amount of money, with the split then kind of go to the artist.
True.
The record labels now have kind of become these digital labels where they do streaming, but the share has even gotten less and less compared to what it used to be. Even though in some cases it was very small, it's gotten even worse. We'll look at this clip; it'll kind of give you an idea.
Okay.
Platform. I added up all the money that I've made from that platform, and I divided it by all the streams I've gotten on that platform. So, and then I highlighted the best paying ones in green and the worst ones in red. And so you can see right off the bat, Spotify is one of the worst ones here. Now, this isn't every streaming platform. This is just kind of some of the biggest ones that I could think of to crunch the numbers for. Spotify, one of the worst. These are one of the worst. AudioMac, were like way worse than both of those. And Yandex, which is kind of like a Russian-only platform or mostly Russian platform, pays very, very little as well. On the flip side, Amazon Music is nearly a penny per stream. And keep in mind, this is a global average. This is not just for one country.
So a good breakdown point here. I mean, just to clarify where Spotify is in terms of per stream, literally 1/5 pretty much of a penny per stream. I mean, what do you think about that, man?
Literally working for pennies. We've heard that
Yes.
figuratively, but this is literally working for pennies. I don't know who's still making money on Spotify to begin with. I'm not, and I think it's probably sad that I'm saying this, and considering we're now content providers ourselves, but I've never fully understood the pay structure for these these streaming platforms. So you can educate me right now so I can understand, why is Spotify so far down in the tank?
When this stuff started coming around, I understood the concept, because being a musician myself, I'm kind of in the business of hopefully recording some products to put out there, some music releases. I get it. I mean, you take a CD or a digital release, even an MP3 release or whatever, you put it on a store, you sell it for $6.99, you get 70% of that. The rest of it goes to the payment processor and the platform that you have it listed on. So I totally get that. What I still don't understand to this day is the people that literally put their stuff on the streaming platforms at all. I understand, like Joe Rogan and stuff, who's got like a deal with Spotify, so they pay him hundreds of millions of dollars to put a custom, basically program, a specific program on the airwaves. It's like kind of like the big studios, having a late show or something like that. So I get that concept where the money comes from, but I don't know how anybody at all, and I'm talking about even artists that in some cases are getting millions and millions of streams, really making any money, because in order to really make big dollars, you have to get almost to the billions of streams on these platforms.
Gotcha.
Which just crazy. Like there's Spotify, if you're getting literally 1/5 of a penny per stream, I mean, it gives you an idea how many millions of streams you need. I watched some guys the other day talking about having 20 million streams or something on there, getting paid somewhere in the ballpark of like, I don't know what it was, like $1,200 or something like that.
Wow.
Which is almost impossible for like an unknown band or unknown musician to do anymore.
Yeah, because the way that things work, let's say the music industry in general, the way that things had worked previously, you'd have an album, you tour, your money, the bulk of your money, the lion's share of your money as an artist was made by touring, your appearances. That's how you mainly got paid. You were getting basically pennies off of the sales of records, right?
Yeah.
So the whole idea for streaming was that now, the artist was going to have more empowerment, they were going to make more money. And I see that it's kind of reverted back to now the artists aren't making much money. In fact, on the flip side, in Hollywood, I believe that was part of what the Hollywood strike was about, the writer's strike that had taken place a few months back. Part of the issue, how are they paying these, this talent for shows that are going to these streaming platforms as opposed to like network TV and stuff like that? How much do they get paid per stream? There was a lot of ambiguity in how they got paid, and they wanted things to be restructured, and they went on strike. So
yeah, and totally, because when you think about some of the shows and things that we've heard about of movies and budgets and things like that, it's nothing for one of these big shows to generate $200-300 million in revenue, right? And imagine if you're one of the top writers on the show and you made something in the ballpark of, let's say, even $100,000 or something like that, right? I mean, the people that own the biggest chunk of that, usually the studios and the producers, those guys are making a lion's share of hundreds of millions of dollars of profit. And here you are stuck with basically, a $75, $80, $100,000 payday. It's just insane,
Yeah.
And I think for Spotify, from what I remember, I actually for some of the numbers I saw broke down, they were saying 1 million streams on Spotify is going to get you anywhere between $4,000 and $7,000.
Well, you know who's doing worse than the person that's streaming on Spotify? Whoever's on Audio Mac. I don't know what the hell Audio Mac is, but that's like they're 0.0008. What is that? What is that? Like, who's even on Audio Mac? What is Audio Mac? That sounds
it's funny, never heard of it.
Yeah, it sounds like a driver that's in your computer, like an audio driver. It doesn't sound like a real platform.
Yeah, and I like Napster. I didn't even know they were still around.
Yeah, and Deezer, my God.
Yeah, Deezer. I mean, I've heard of Deezer before, just on like some ads, but I still have never really understood the concept. But it's like, I mean, even those platforms, if you look at Deezer, pays a little bit more than Spotify, and it's like Spotify, I think, is one of the top platforms in terms of profit. I mean, they're generating billions of dollars of revenue off of these catalogs, and it's like the artists are basically putting the music up there for free and getting paid nothing, pretty much.
The only two that I've actually used in recent years would be Tidal and Qobuz. And Qobuz is the one that I typically use, like if I'm streaming audio around the house. So
okay. Yeah, I never use those either. I mean, Amazon Music, obviously, I have. YouTube, I've used for everything.
No,
Apple Music a little bit when I had Apple, but I do use Spotify, but it's just I just don't understand. Like I have bands that I listen to all the time now that put their whole records out on Spotify, and then it's like they come out, they're like, yeah, we really didn't sell any records, and it's like, well, of course you did, because you put it on Spotify for free.
Yep.
So I mean, that's another thing is when you put the stuff out there, if you're going to generate revenue off of it, but you're going to put it on Spotify for free and then try to sell a CD for $9.99, people are just going to go listen to it on Spotify for free, and you're going to get paid 10 cents.
Exactly.
It's like,
yeah, Master P. I remember Master P back in the day.
No,
he was selling CDs out of the trunk of his car, and he was making some money because the record deals for artists were just so horrible, and he found a way around it. But like now, physical content is like basically non-existent. Like I have a collection of CDs that I never listened to because it's so much more convenient for me to stream through, Qobuz. So
yeah, definitely.
Things
it's
change.
Convenient. It just doesn't pay you if you're an artist. That's the unfortunate part.
Exactly. Basically, the artists are being burned. And speaking of being burned, the next portion of this segment is something that I got to experience recently. And if you're a football fan, I know you know this smiling face here. This is Tom Brady.
He's been getting burned up by his ex-wife. Now he's got to deal with this.
Bro, if you thought what happened with him and the ex-wife was bad, just wait to hear what his friends have to say about it.
Why do you look like a gay Tom Brady?
You sometimes gotta your coach. You know who else that coach? Giselle. She that karate man. Ain't karate class today. And she's still a white belt. The only bruises she had were on her ass.
Do you know that every morning Kevin wakes up at 4 a.m. to make a movie?
Yeah,
I love your movies, or as I call them, short films. You have 7 rings. Well, 8 now that Giselle gave hers back. Tom also lost $30 million in crypto. Tom, how did you fall for that? I mean, even Gronk was like, me know that not real money. Like,
Bert Kreischer is a king. He looks like if the Tiger King and the Liver King only ate Burger King and had a liver that looked like Martin Luther King got beat up by Rodney King.
An ex-athlete, high cheekbones, silky hair. You remind me too much of my stepdad now.
Kim was terrified to be here tonight. Not because of this, but because her kids are home with their dad.
Oh no!
Tom
You got to get a Kanye diss in there.
Man, I stumbled upon the Tom Brady roast. I want to say it might have been like last Friday, and I was just up late. You know, I don't have to be anywhere on Saturday, and I was up late, and bro, I laughed my ass off from beginning to end. Like there were a couple of guys that fell a little flat. But even with them, it was, some material was funny because you got superstar Tom Brady, basically the GOAT of quarterbacks, and he looks like a model. He looks like a male model or an actor or something. Doesn't look like a football player.
The guy doesn't. He's like Rob Lowe. He doesn't age.
Yeah, but then you find out his life, certain parts of his life are shitty, just like everyone else. Like the wife leaves him for like the jujitsu guy or some shit like that, and like his friends are just ripping him.
Yeah, dude, and he like left his ex-girlfriend when she was pregnant, so I think I have stuff. Yeah, I mean, I love the roast stuff. I was a fan of all these going back to the day when they were on Comedy Central. Now it looks like Netflix is kind of sucking up most of this stuff again. Yeah, but I love the whole concept of these roasts, and the writing is so. It's so pointed, right? Like these guys are they're going after it. Nothing's off the table.
Bro, it was so brutal. But luckily, he was a good sport about it. He took it on the chin. And it was really one of the better ones that I've seen in a long time. Like, I think it was Nikki Glazer, one of the last, she was one of the females that was in it. And she was just killing it, bro. She was killing it. It was just so funny. If you've not seen the Tom Brady roast, you need to watch it. Do yourself a favor.
Yeah, most definitely. I've seen bits and pieces of it. I need to go watch the whole thing. And when I get Netflix back again to watch the Mike Tyson fight, then I'll be able to watch it.
There you go. I'm definitely watching the Tyson fight. It's been like it's been a little bit of an evolution with me and Tom Brady because, I'm a Miami Dolphin fan for life, right? So I hate Tom Brady. I hate Buffalo. I hate New England. I hate the Jets. But I specifically and particularly hated Tom Brady because he just break our hearts. Like I fucking hate Tom Brady. And then he ends up going to Tampa Bay. So like I had to hate him a little bit less because at least he was playing for a Florida team, right?
That's right.
So
He's getting in your neck of the woods.
Yeah, but the guy is really he's the greatest. You got to give it to him.
Yeah, I mean, he had the right conditions, the right team, the right health. I mean, he didn't have really any big issues that impacted him. It's just one of those situations where it's just a one-of-a-kind career that the guy was able to have, and not anything to take away from his talent or ability, but the stars certainly aligned for that guy.
And you have to have a certain level of respect for a guy that says, well, now, wait a minute. I have a choice. Either play the game that I love to play, that I can still play on an elite level, or lose my family. And the guy says, fuck it. Fuck the family. I'm gonna play another season.
That's right, man. You can always get a new family. If life teaches you anything, you can always make a new family.
Yeah, always get a newer, younger wife. I guess.
Be a newer, younger wife. You could have a couple more kids. I mean, Christ, guys like Tony Randall were having kids when they were almost 80. I think it's like, so. If that teaches you anything, it's like go for your dreams.
Listen, Tom was teasing the idea of coming back. Just a few weeks back, he was. And maybe it was just tongue in cheek, but he was kind of teasing the idea of like, I was thinking about coming back. I'm like, God,
dude, if you can do it, why not? If you can do it, look at George Foreman coming back into boxing when he was like 58 years old and winning freaking championship again.
Yeah.
You
Big
know?
George Foreman, that was, oh my God. That was historic the way he came back. So yeah.
So I mean, Tom Brady's got another shit. He's only in his 40s. He's got another 12, 13 years. He could probably still return and play at top level.
Yeah, and the thing with him, I don't think like the typical trappings of success in the NFL isn't what will bring him back because he's got all the rings already. I think he's just so competitive. He wants and feels like he's the best. So he would love to go out there and just shit on some young quarterback's dreams. So, God bless him. Whatever he decides to do, whatever. He's the best.
Definitely. We'll certainly hear about it, whatever happens.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hold on to your knees. So the dating scene, the marriage outlook, the whole concept of this relationship thing in the West, or specifically the United States, has gotten really strange over the last couple of years. Just become a strange landscape of interactions with people and people's loyalties and people like, for instance, the Tom Brady situation where you think the guy would have everything, and what happens? Giselle still leaves his ass.
Yeah.
Right. So I mean, it's a difficult landscape these days, and this clip will kind of give some insight to what this guy's talking and thinking about in terms of the dating scene today.
Andrew, what do you expect on the first date?
When I was dating,
Yeah.
probably that the expectation was that a man would pay for the date and chivalry and all of that. What I would expect in modern year is that I wouldn't date. It just sounds like I would just check out completely and grab a passport and passport bro for the rest of my life. I don't think I would ever date another United States woman ever again.
They
Honestly.
don't look happy about that.
Passport wife from?
I have no idea. Just anywhere but here.
You got a problem? How about you, Andrew? What do you expect on the first date?
Just an
When I would
interesting concept there of
Stop it!
oh, let's play some other guys. We don't want that.
It's okay.
Just an interesting concept there. Like the guy's just literally straight faced, like, no, I would literally never date anyone again from the United States.
Listen, it's tough out there, bro. It's tough out there. Luckily, I'm not in the dating pool right now. There used to be a saying that the dating pool is full of piss, and now the saying is the dating pool is full of piss, shit, and vomit. So I wouldn't want to be out there dating, and I get it. The standards are so high for a guy here in the West. You have to, I think it's the what is it? The sixes, the 3 6s. A woman wants a guy that's 6 feet tall. Scratch me off that list. 6 figures. You gotta be making 6 figures. And there was another. What's the other thing? There are 3 6s. Do you remember what the third one was?
No, not specifically, but I probably don't possess the third one. I don't possess the second one in most years. I do possess the first one, but it doesn't seem to help. Speaking for somebody who's been in the dating scene for a little while, for at least a couple of years now, I don't know if it's the prevalence of social media or just all of the instantaneous gratification of contact or all of the different ways that you can contact people now, or the trading up, or the dating apps where it's just literally swiping and not ever even considering the person on the other side.
Yeah.
People don't even want to have a conversation at all anymore. Like, I can understand the concept of finding somebody based on looks to an extent, but looks will not keep or save a relationship.
No.
At all. Because when you get tired of that other person, or the other person, you find out that they're just, a bad egg. It doesn't matter how good they look. You can't stand them.
Yep. I think one of the misconceptions is that there's any dating going on at all anymore. And I think that's the thing. People don't date anymore. They don't.
Yeah.
From the friends of mine that I have who are single, some have been married and are divorced. Some just, haven't gotten married and they just, they want to be like George Clooney or something like that. From what I gather, it's not about dating anymore. Literally, if you're on one of these platforms, you swipe left, right, I don't even know. You swipe one way or another and let a person know you're interested. you go out, you screw, and then you probably don't call each other again. Most people aren't really dating. It's not about dating. It's not really about spending time. It's more or less there's a distraction that a person is looking for. A woman is looking for, in some cases, a distraction of a man maybe taking her out, making her feel special, paying for dinner at a decent restaurant, and, maybe this, hook up or not. A guy is just looking sometimes for a chick to go out with and score. So it's like it's not really looking for anything long term for a lot of people. So that aspect of dating and courtship, that stuff doesn't really happen much anymore.
Yeah, it's extremely a hookup centric throwaway culture for sure now, and the difficulty in that is it's like, and you watch some of these clips of these podcasts, these people from, especially some of them in the adult industry and stuff like that, that have slept with 6,000 people or something like that, and their needs aren't being met, and it has nothing to do with the intimacy. It's just they don't have a connection with with another person anymore.
No.
That's a huge problem because people in the regular dating field are kind of looking at that body count thing, like, well, what kind of body count are you looking at? Well, it doesn't matter what kind of body count you're able to set down. These people are still out there looking for something that they can't find because they're not taking time to build any of it to begin with.
Yeah.
To your point,
Yeah, and the body count thing is interesting too, because at the end of the day, like when you really think about it, do you really want like someone that's been with a lot of people? But at the same time, if you make a genuine connection and that person, you can build a life with that person and everything is cool, how much does the body count really matter? Like I think it's situational, but who really wants.
Yeah, I agree. Body count to me doesn't matter at all because no matter what kind of body count you have, and what I mean by that is it doesn't do anything for you to influence your life positively, right? Like you could have a 10,000 body count, and a year later, if you got zero body count that year, you feel just as bad as before year one. It's like there's no reserve bank of need for intimacy. It doesn't go away.
So you got a chick who treats you right. She makes you feel special whenever you're with her. But in her backyard, she literally has Arlington National Cemetery. What do you do?
Well, and the biggest problem with that too, just like what you're talking about in terms of people with the body count, is it's like when that's all they're out there looking for, how are you going to build something with somebody when it's like it's so trendy now just to be like, oh well, we'll have a fling and then move on to the next, move on to the next. But those flings don't fulfill anybody in the long run because if you've ever had a fling of any kind, or even been with somebody in any short period of time in a hookup status, about 2 days later you're looking for somebody else because you're not going to be fulfilled. It doesn't fulfill you.
I always hear these weird conspiracy theories that life is like a simulation, like we live in like a computer simulation.
Yeah, the Matrix.
Yeah, and like I think of it like life is like a script now, and literally that script is written by somebody with ADHD or something. Like no one has an attention span and focus longer than say, a week or two. After that, they've lost interest and they're on to the next. And for right now, that may be cool, but long term, as you get older and life is happening, it's great to have somebody to share that time with and to do things with, someone that can help and support you. I just wonder what this generation is going to look like when they're like 50s, 60 years old and they didn't really build any solid relationships with anyone.
Yeah, man, it's kind of scary. I mean, it really is. It's going to be it's already a vastly different world than, like, let's say you and I would have seen from our childhood and teens into 20s. I can't even imagine, in one more generation down the road, it's going to look almost unrecognizable.
Yeah, it's interesting. We'll just have to see how things play out. And speaking of this generation, this next portion of the segment is interesting too. And this young lady is kind of like explaining how people in this generation actually feel. It's really interesting. Let's run it.
Where I don't really care about much. And I know that sounds kind of bad, but like I look around me and it's very, very difficult for me looking at today's society to take things very seriously. Like the things that I once wanted out of life, or the things that I used to take more seriously or whatever, like I don't really care about them anymore. I'm going through the motions to be like a functioning member of society. I have a savings, I have my 401k, you know, whatever, but like I don't really care the way that I think I'm supposed to as a 26-year-old. Even when I think about contributing to my 401k, it's like I can't touch this money till I'm 50 something years old. Girl, I don't even know if I'm gonna make it to 50 at this point. Like, I don't know if I'm gonna make it. Let's be real. And I'm not saying this, I'm not making this video to be like pessimistic or whatever. Like, I know my last video, if you guys watched it, it kind of came across as kind of pessimistic. And I don't want to be that person. There's already enough negativity out there at this point, but I'm making this video to more be of like a reminder that really nothing is ever that serious. I look on the news or
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, I look at it from another extent of there's so many things out there now that it's hard for you to keep your mind focused on something, right? Everything just seems so throwaway.
Yep, I agree. And part of it is just like where we are at this moment in time, right? You know, we got through COVID, and like literally markets, you know, were shut down, and the job market, you know, the economy's cratered in places, and like we're at a place now where we've rebuilt to a certain extent where it seems like we're back to normal, but things aren't necessarily back to normal. Inflation is still high. People, you know, affordable housing in like a major metro area is non-existent, and young people are looking like, okay, I'm looking around, I'm seeing people who are at or near retirement, and you know, they don't have shit to show for it. Maybe they can get Social Security, maybe they can't. And they're looking like, I might not even survive long enough to cash in on Social Security. So why am I going to set aside all this money that I'll never really get to spend? And it's kind of counterintuitive to everything that we've been, you know, raised to believe, like our generation. But I can kind of understand it. There's a little bit more that we can play from this video too.
Engage and play this game and pretend like all this stuff is real and like it actually matters, when it's like clearly we live in a bit of like a circus. Like if you live in America, this country's a circus. Nobody really takes it seriously. I can't really even take this place seriously. I feel like there's only like a few choices that you really have. You can either care a lot about what's happening in the world and kind of drive yourself crazy, and trust me, I've been there. If you guys have been watching me since October, November, I've been there, and I don't want to go there again, because I can tell you right now, my mental health, when I'm at that place, when I care too much and when I'm too engaged with what's going on and I'm too, you know, watching the news or whatever, it's like I will actually drive myself crazy. So I've come to the realization now, and I used to feel so guilty, and I used to get so angry with other people who like weren't super engaged with politics and who like, you know, weren't constantly wanting to learn about what's happening in the world and stuff. Like I used to get so angry with people for that. But I'm kind of getting to a place now where it's like I understand it, because at the end of the day, it's like you will literally drive yourself crazy if you're constantly absorbing and looking at what's going on, because the world is so crazy.
Couldn't agree more with what she's saying, because, and part of it too, to kind of what we're talking about in terms of a simulation, is it really is kind of a simulation. What I mean by that is so many aspects of life has moved away from any stability in terms of like survival. It's not about anything to do with survival for the most part. It's all of these little kind of mini ecosystems that have been created on top of life. Like if you lived in a place where you were starving and you had nothing to eat, and your whole day was trying to get something to eat and try to basically have shelter and you know the facilities that could keep you alive another day, your value system is far different than these people's value system, where people in this country, where they're more worried about, you know, what's trending on a social media platform, or what kind of shoes they're going to buy, or you know what I mean? Like there's so much unrealistic things that we live with every day that we just now look at as realistic or as part of life, but they really aren't. They're all just make-believe nonsense.
Yeah. What she says makes a lot of sense. And, you know, when I was younger, I would not have agreed with her because I didn't live long enough to see certain things come to fruition. But she's right. And you know this, I was like a news junkie. I would just, you know, my day was like consumed with trying to, you know, watch as much news as possible and stay engaged. And, I get, all bent out of shape about things that I had absolutely no control over. And I started to realize that no matter how bad they would say things were, how terrible and like the world is coming to an end, like there was always something else right after that. And it's like nothing ever really happened. There was no real solution. The people who were getting into, chaotic sort of situations kept getting to chaotic situations, and the train just kept rolling. And I'm like, I've invested so much of myself in what's going on. Nothing's changing. And the only thing that I have to show for it is stress. And like I would literally be up in the middle of the night worrying about, well, what's going to happen if this person is doing X, Y, or Z. And it's like, it's crazy. She's right. You will literally drive yourself crazy.
Well, and what's funny about that is you talk about that, and I agree with you because I myself have dealt with various levels of anxiety over different situations in my life and stuff like that. But I want to say that coming from our generation, or people that are now getting to the mid-century mark in terms of age and generational kind of connection, we had to have a lot more toughness in our day just to deal with certain things, right? Like today, everything's so prevalent, like you mentioned about mental health, but there's almost a coddling towards mental health where it's like you have to be willing to actually have some personal toughness as well to get through. And people today are so sensitive that, to your point of where you're bothered by something, but imagine to them it's literally like life ending, right? Like you and I might lose a couple hours of sleep, but now people are literally like offing themselves. Because of news or social media or online bullying, which is a crazy concept to me.
Well, remember, just a episode or two ago, we had the young lady, and I believe she's in Switzerland, who's going to have a medically assisted suicide. Not because she's healthy. It's like depression and some is she bipolar or something like that?
But borderline personality, maybe depression. She had a couple of things.
Yeah, but like otherwise she's a healthy individual, and she's like, you know what, fuck it, I'm out of here. Like, I'm gonna check out.
That's so crazy to me because it's like the way I look at just existence is tough and shitty, right? Like there's nothing really good or inherently good about life. You literally have to make everything good.
Yeah.
And if you have the mindset that things are going to drag you into the light, so to speak, you're definitely not going to get there from paying attention to all the stuff she was just talking about, because most of it is just bullshit anyway.
Yeah. I kind of related to, like, it's going to be totally from out of left field, but I kind of related to college. College is essential because in certain ways, because you can get a job, or at least you can get an interview for a job, and you have theoretically a better shot at a job than a person who doesn't have a college degree. But in general, whether you got a college degree or if you just came in off the street, and somebody just hired you, you're going to get basically the same training program, and someone's going to come in and they're going to deprogram you, say, whatever you learned at that institution, forget it. You're going to do what we tell you to do, and this is how we want it done. So theoretically, you don't need a college education at all. You just need training. Right. So it's like, why are we spending so much money on a college degree and yet we still, to a certain extent, need them? It's like everything's so counterintuitive. So I don't know.
Yeah, like you said, man, in many cases, you don't need the college degrees because the fields that they're putting the degrees out in are so wide now that if you have the degree, it's not going to help you get a job anyway, because maybe the market is so flooded with people in that field with those degrees and so specified that they couldn't even get hired if they wanted to. So it's just gotten really strange, and and when everything that you're seeing is like a sales pitch and I'm talking about everything, like whether it's TV, whether we're talking about news, whether they're talking about commercials in general, everything's kind of become a commercial or something. It's selling you something, and when everything's being sold, there's just no stability in reality anymore. It's like reality is about survival and about keeping yourself kind of upright. Not about which video game service that you couldn't purchase this week or whatever.
Well, I think it all boils down to either you're producing or you're consuming.
Yeah.
Let's move on to Free for All.
So an interesting tie to the last segment, we're talking about all of the nonsense that's being sold out there and all of the fake, phony basically dealers trying to sell you ideas. This is a perfect example within the prosperity preaching community.
Copeland, and then watch his very creepy response.
Isn't it true that you want to fly commercial so that you can fly in luxury? How much money did you pay for Tyler Perry's Gulfstream jet, for example?
Well, for example, that's really none of your business. But
This is for your donors.
listen, I paid.
503C, it's a public record.
You kind of caught me off guard here.
Yeah, he didn't have a
the
prepared
airplane that we have that I bought from Tyler Perry, and I didn't pay anywhere. Tyler's one of the greatest guys. He made that airplane so cheap for me, I couldn't help but buy it. I love your eyes.
Again, getting back to the comment, you said that you don't like to fly commercial because you don't want to get into a tube with a bunch of demons.
Staying on her
You really
message.
believe that human beings are demons.
No, I do not. And don't you ever say I did.
Yep, there's a demon right there.
Yes or not. With flesh and blood.
Subscribe if you want to see.
We wrestle not with flesh and blood, but powers and principalities. I don't know, dude. Me and religion don't see eye to eye, but when I see these guys with, $100,000 watches, flying $1 million planes and living the ultimate high life, I don't see them being anywhere near religiosity.
Yeah. As I've gotten older, I've become more spiritual. I've been driven further and further away from like organized religion because the characters that are attached to it, there are only a couple of like churches or congregations that I've been a part of that have made me feel like it's truly about uplifting someone and really being there and being like an extension of a family. There aren't many. In most cases, I've found that they're like businesses and not just businesses, they're family businesses. So like if a pastor has a church, if he passes away or he steps down, usually it's going to go to his child, his son or whatever. And it's like, is that the only person in the congregation who had the ability to lead? Are you telling me the only people that can lead this congregation is you and your offspring? Like no one else has been called, by God to lead?
It's all familiar.
Yeah, it's like, and then, I know of a church where they have a couple of different churches scattered around. And like every one of those churches is led by family members. Like, is your family the only family touched by God? Like, get out of here. Get out of here.
Well, yeah. Well, and there's a lot of truth to that because when they keep that kind of that power structure of like when they pretend they're the ones anointed by these so-called deities, it's easy for them to believe that the next in line in their family has the same power that these charlatans and frauds have, which is none. The only power these guys have is on their American Express card, and they got a lot more than you and I do.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's so crazy how individuals have been elevated. And if you're a member of a church, whether it's a mega church or just a regular everyday church, like, yes, you're going to want to see the leader of your church, look nice, smell nice, maybe drive a decent car. Like there's nothing wrong with that.
Be presentable.
Yeah. My thing is when it gets to a point where like these people are elevated to like, they're becoming multimillionaires, but then the congregation itself is suffering. Like, I think that there comes a point where it's like, how much money is enough money? Like, if you've raised all the money that you need to make to take care of the business of the church, keep the church doors open, take care of those who provide services, like, how much money is enough money? And when do you stop asking people who are basically hoping that by coming to support you in the church that their life is going to be better and they're going to make their way to heaven? Like, when are you going to toss them a bone? When are you going to give them a bone and really truly give something back to them? Because in a lot of cases, I see a lot of churches taking and not, really doing nearly as much giving. And that's just my perspective.
It's completely right because they're taking, and the people that are giving are the people in the congregation. They're the ones actually still giving. They're donating their time, they're donating their money, all their resources to allow these guys to actually operate. And basically, in my understanding of theological kind of constructs, even though I'm far and away from somebody that has any religiosity or beliefs within any of these systems, but my understandings of Christianity, these guys are actually going against their own belief system by basically becoming like an idol or a false god themselves. I mean, they're hailed as literally so powerful and to be a representative of the God they believe in, but they're actually treated as if they're a god themselves. They live like a god. You know, so it goes against their own theological positions, you know, to be kind of worshipped in a way, you know, by people.
Bro, you really hit the nail on the head. I was literally just having a conversation with Mrs. Mo Money. There is a Mrs. Mo Money out there. So all you chicks that were hoping to pick me up at some conference somewhere, I'm taken, okay?
And I can vouch, I've also met Mrs. Mo Money, and it's going to be difficult for you to beat her.
Yeah, she's got those hands, man. She'll fight. So,
right.
but
You ain't taking her place.
Bro, no, we were literally having this conversation. We were just talking about, they were talking about like denouncing fraternities and denouncing other organizations because anything that takes your focus off of God is not Christian, right? And then I'm thinking about it, but some of the same folks are like, you know, going to these mega churches or going to a church where they kind of idolize this preacher. And it's like, that's literally the same exact thing, if not worse, because you're elevating this person and treating them as though they're a god. And it's like, it's just so confusing.
It's idolatry all the same. And it's like, it shows the hypocrisy these guys are willing to do to bastardize their own belief systems, to take advantage of people and dip their money into somebody's pocketbooks. That's just, you don't need money to be, I have nothing against people that are religious or religious ideals or freedom of religion. That's why this country's so great. But you don't need money to be religious. You just don't.
No.
And they've twisted that completely on the back legs. I mean, these guys are all about the money. The Joel Osteens and the Copelands and all these guys are taking as much money as they possibly can get and living in ultimate luxury. They're not waiting for heaven to come. They're living in heaven right now.
Yes, you're going to suffer now, and then you'll get your just rewards in heaven, while they're having heaven on earth. And it's like, again, I'm not saying that they shouldn't get paid for the work that they're doing, because it's like a job. It's a calling. I have a lot of respect for people who are truly delivering the word, but like, I just think like it's a very one-sided relationship. I think what they're giving back in return, in some cases, not all, but in some cases, is just totally out of balance with what they expect. Churches don't pay, the taxes, and even if some of these ministers go out and they deliver the word in prisons and in hospitals and stuff, they get paid for that. They don't. A lot of them don't do it for free. I won't say they all don't do it for free, but a lot of them don't do it for free.
Yeah,
so it's
funeral services, all that stuff. Yeah.
There's a lot of things that they're compensated for, but in a lot of instances, they want people to volunteer their services. They want the congregation to offer their time, their talent, and their treasures to carry the church. But like, when it's time to do it in the opposite end, it doesn't always happen. But that's a way of life for some. But in this next segment, there's someone who's decided to go completely in the opposite direction.
There, it's your favorite hairy woodsman again, bringing you some hard-earned wisdom from the deep woods. Or at least I'll just sit there and talk a little bit. And I have a message in this video that I find to be quite important, actually. And it's very simple. Do less. Yeah. Do less. Now, this is not coming from some hippie wandering around in the woods. Not at all. I am far from that, and I am not one of those people who will, curse at capitalism and all that. No. But I think that we have to look at society around us and recognize that it is changing. Now, I have said before that we are moving into a system that some people are calling techno-feudalism. I see it in a little bit more, I have a wider perspective on it, and I've called it feudalism 2.0.
Aided by technological research.
Logan goes from the World Economic Forum.
I can't disagree with the guy. I mean, the technology, just kind of we were talking about earlier before with the dating scene and just people in society and how people have gotten away from it. And your clip about the woman not caring about things anymore. There's so many things, or like the clip we had the other day about how many video games are coming out. Right, you're an avid video game player and you love to play a video game, but there's 10 million releases a month coming out.
Yeah.
There's a point where you've got to start cutting out who you are and what you're about versus trying to grab all of these balloons as they're, heading to the sky that you can't grab.
I agree. He goes on, and maybe we'll have a chance to hear some more what he's saying, but he goes on, he elaborates a bit more. And the idea is the things that, similar to the young lady, the things that we think are important aren't necessarily important when you look at life in its totality. I can't tell you how many people that I know that I've seen in my lifetime that worked hard, they played by the rules, they saved their money, put in the 401k and, did all the right things that society tells you you're supposed to do. And then when they finally get to the age where they can retire and start to quote unquote live, they kill over. Either COVID got them or just natural causes or whatever. And all of that sacrifice, all of that hard work, and they don't even get the money. Either a family member gets some of the money or Uncle Sam gets the money. It's like if they knew that literally right into retirement they were going to kick the bucket, I wonder if they would have made different life choices.
Oh man, you hit it right on the head because there's a reason why life expectancy rates are right up there with the retirement age. It's systemic, right? And like he says, it's feudalism 2.0. He's completely right. That they've crafted this perfect system where they can convince you to give your all into the system and follow these little rules towards happiness and all this. And by the time you're able to reach that golden parachute out of your career and your life of having to work hard and do all these things and be comfortable, it's about time for you to go into the ground.
Yep.
And that's the issue. It's like if you don't attach yourself to what makes you happy, what drives you, what's really out there, then you start to get clogged down by all of these distractions. And now it's endless time sucks. So not only is work eating up, 8 to 10 hours of your day, 12 hours if you're counting, the preparation and the commute in some cases. You've got to sleep for at least 6 hours. Most people don't get anywhere from between 3 to 6 hours total. So I mean, there's roughly 18 hours of your day. It doesn't leave very much for any meaningful, time between that. And the more you're clamoring to get more and more, the more that goalpost gets moved.
Yep. I think you and I spoke about this in the past. You work 5 days to have 2 days off, but even with 2 days off, really it's like a day and a half because maybe on Saturday you're doing all the things that you couldn't do Monday through Friday. And then maybe you'll do something on Saturday night because Sunday you're going to wake up and you may go to church or you may just stay home and lounge, but Saturday you're going to get your money's worth. Sunday, on the other hand, most people are a little reluctant to do too much because they know what? They're going right back to work on Monday. So it feels like you literally have like a day and a half.
Well, you get that sour feeling in the pit of your stomach of Sunday comes, it's the doom and gloom of, well, it's all over, it's back to work. And I didn't get any of the stuff accomplished I really wanted to do because by the time Sunday hits, you're starting to feel okay because you got out of that sleep schedule rut where you got a couple extra hours of sleep probably. Maybe a little relaxation away from the alarm clock and just kind of let yourself wake up naturally when you wanted to. So you start to kind of feel a little bit better. And then now it's right back into that sickness of, back to the enslavement tomorrow, back to the grind, back to the making the donuts as you would put it.
Yep. I think big business had major issues with COVID, with the market closing and basically things being shut down, right? There was a loss of productivity. There was a loss of income, right? But I think what scared people the most is they knew that it was going to be transformative. Once people realized, wow, I could work remotely, or wow, this is what it feels like to actually be at home and it's still daylight. There's some people who wake up in the morning when it's dark out and they go to work, and by the time they return home, it's dark again. They don't know what it looks like to be outside their home with broad daylight. And like with COVID, it gave people an opportunity to reevaluate things and say, you know what? I like being home with my family. I like, looking around my yard and planting and doing some things that are a little bit healthier than this constant grind of being in traffic and having people micromanage me and, microaggressions and memoing you to death. Like it showed people that there's a different way, and people didn't necessarily want to return to the job market. And I think that terrified government and big business. So
it's actually living versus just being a cog in the machine. And it's like government doesn't like criminals either because they don't like the competition.
Yeah. Yeah.
You will own nothing and you will be happy. You know?
That's what I say. You'll own
I think we
nothing.
need to really look at how things are changing and what's going on and ask ourselves, is it really true that the smart thing is just to work hard? Is that really the smart option now? I think not. I think that will not give you happiness.
Just wear you out.
Now I have a cup of coffee here now, and
what is he eating? Like a goat
there might be a little bit of wind noise.
Like a
so we'll move into the cabin here.
Like the root is growing out of the bottom of
our talk there.
He's gonna go back to see. Look, it's like a just little wooden shack there. Now, I don't think that's his main.
What if you could do
I'll kill it there.
Yeah, it's all good. Yeah, I don't think that's his primary living quarters, but he's just showing you like life. Some people who have the least actually live the happiest, most stress-free lives, depending on where you are in the world. Now, in the U.S., not having resources will probably make you, miserable. But there's some people that live off the land and they're doing just fine, and they don't have health issues.
Yeah, you're completely right. If you get away from the concept of the traditional rat race where you have to have the same kind of house as the next guy, the same kind of $70,000 pickup truck or whatever they have in the location you're at, if you get out of that mindset and figure out, cut yourself out a place to live that isn't as expensive, or even rent if you have to, or whatever it may be. If you think along the lines of what is it going to take to make me happy versus what is it going to take to make me feel like I've achieved what the guy next door has achieved. If you can move away from that, you're going to be happier because you're not going to be stacked up against something you can never really get to because the goalpost just keeps moving higher and higher. Pretty soon you got to make 80,000 a year. Then you got to make 120. Then you got to make 240. Then you got to make, that's never going to stop. I mean, the middle class has got pushed down to the fact where most locales now, you've got to make six figures to be middle class now.
Yep. Where I'm from, back in Florida, I'll just say back in Florida. Where I'm from back in Florida, like there are neighborhoods where like you wouldn't walk there at certain times of the day or night. And now you can't afford to live there. They're $1 million houses that I walked past on a daily basis that now you can't afford them. And it's like, where do we go? Like where are people supposed to go when like literally they can't afford housing anymore?
Yeah, in some places that's how it is like that. And I think that's why there's such a prevalence upon rentals now in apartments in some places. They're building so many of them because people have to have a job in that area to survive, and then they can't afford any of the housing. They can't buy a house, so they have to rent. So then they're forced into renting these super expensive places that are just at the tip top of what they can afford. Because they're still trying to fight to live in that bustle and that hustle of trying to get to the next level. And sometimes the next level, kind of like what this guy's talking about, you run out of time. Like how many levels are you going to get to before you just hit that plateau? And you're like, well, I'm done now. I can't. I'm 75 years old. There's no more plateaus I can get to.
I know we're running a little long on this episode, but let's listen to a little bit more about what he says. I believe he does elaborate a little bit more.
Here we are inside one of the many wooden shelters that you will find here in the Norwegian woods, and I've been up here quite a lot actually up through the years, and if you have been following this channel, you will you may have seen me here in one of the other videos. What is value? What's value? How do you measure value? Is it money? Is it time? Is it days, hours, experiences? What is value?
No.
I'm pretty sure that if you have been paying attention during the last few years, you would not say that money is value. Those two are different things. And if you look at something like life quality, what's life quality? What does it consist of? Is it how much money you have? Well, it's certainly a factor. It is. It would be foolish to say otherwise.
Yep.
But if you have what you need, basic needs, will adding additional money make you happier? And my main message here in this video is that I think time has come now to reevaluate this society and our place in society and do less. Do less and do only the things that you have to do to cover your basic needs. And apart from that, do only the things that you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
For me, moving forward now, after half a century here on this planet, I want less commitments, less work, less appointments, less obligations, less work.
Mm-hmm.
I want less of all those things that have taken up and occupied 5 decades. Well, maybe not the first decade, but.
And this guy's completely right. Like a half a century of this guy's life chasing the things that everybody chases. And now he's gotten to 50 and he's going, that whole 50 years was almost useless.
Yep.
Right? He's finally figured out I didn't need this stuff. I just need to be able to sit here and enjoy a cup of coffee out in nature. And I'm perfectly happy and content.
Yep. He's hit the nail on the head. If we could train ourselves to want less, we'd probably be a heck of a lot happier. I'm a AV enthusiast. You know that. I've got a lot of toys.
Me too.
I love my toys. And before I get my toys, I do a lot of research and I drool over them daily. And I make these plans on how great it's going to make my system sound. And, I've got some really, really nice stuff. And I tell you, whether it's the cheapest upgrade that I've done or a mind-bendingly expensive upgrade, because I've done them all, at the end of the day, when I've had those items in my home for, say, a month or two, no matter how great they are, how much I spent on them, eventually I get bored with them.
Yeah. And it's kind of like with everything. And what's happened is everything's moved so exponentially where you have to have more and more and more to fill that endless vacuum, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not just with one aspect of our lives, it's with every part of our life now. Whether it's relationships, there's got to be more and more and more and more relationships, or there's got to be more and more job opportunities, or more and more, places you live. Like some people back, 100 years ago, they lived in one place. Sometimes their family and them lived in that place for many generations.
Mm-hmm.
And now some people have had how many places to live in, even a 30-year period of time. Some of them have 20 places to live.
Yeah.
And some of it is a necessity of jobs and having to move for these reasons and stuff comparative to where you're living and what you need to earn to be able to live there. But a lot of it is just when you're trying to fill that endless vacuum inside to get yourself to that next level of contentness, you never get there. You just have to be content with what you're able to actually possess.
Yeah. I think it takes a level of maturity and just growth to get there. Some people will never get there. I'm trying to be better about it, but I still have a ways to go. But I think this video helps to shed some light on how we could kind of like view things, a healthier way of approaching life that can give you more fulfillment than anything you'll ever buy at a retail store.
Yeah, and to this guy's point, do it earlier, right? Don't wait till you've been here for 5 decades to start looking at those things. If you're 30, do it now. If you're 25, do it now. Like I've been on the same journey the last couple of years. Like I'm trying to get everything in order enough and for myself, it's more to move to a position of not being locked into a corporate structure anymore and being able to I don't mind working. It's not a problem about working or putting in the effort, but I'd like to work on something that I actually enjoy.
Yeah.
And to this guy's point, if you do what you enjoy, you're not working anymore. You're just getting up and enjoying your time, which is the best way to use your time. Not giving all your time away to something you absolutely hate to spend on other things that you mostly don't like either.
Yep. I agree 100%. And speaking of things that we enjoy doing this podcast. I know I enjoy it, JD. I know you enjoy it as well. We hope to bring you guys more great content. Again, this one ran a little bit long, but I just felt like that last video says a lot. And I think people tuning in, they need to hear stuff like this. They need to hear that sometimes you are doing enough. Even though it doesn't feel like you are, sometimes you are doing enough. Maybe you're even doing too much. And sometimes the healthier thing is to dial it back and really take inventory of where you are and where you're trying to go and what do you truly need to get there.
Yeah, well said. Well said. Because when he says do less, I think he generally means cut out all of the garbage. If there are 3 or 4 things that you're extremely happy and passionate about doing, and you do those things, you're going to be happy. If there's 100 things that you hate doing to get to 2 things that you enjoy, you're going to be miserable. And I think we can all agree to that because I think we've all been there.
Yes, indeed, brother.
All right. Well, like you said, we're a little bit longer one, which is fine because we hadn't been here for a week. So, let's give them a little bit more, and we'll be back again. We've got new episodes in the works. We've got some new marketing campaigns that'll be coming out. We're going to be doing some merchandise somewhere down the road here. Like and subscribe. Stay tuned. Like what you're hearing. There's going to be a lot more things coming, including we're going to innovate this podcast and keep growing it as we go.
Yes, indeed. We'll see you on the flip side.
Take care.